Chapter 27, An Unusual Afternoon Tea, and the word ladder is tea, 10, ton, toy, boy, and box. What do you see? Norbridge asked. The Himeses, Elizabeth said, backing away from the telescope. They're doing something by the bridge. She almost mentioned she was going to visit them that afternoon, but then caught herself. Norbridge looked unconcerned. Those two, I had a chance to speak with them. Open the door, open the door. Those two, I had a chance to speak with them after our little meeting a few nights ago. Just a simple misunderstanding. Did they tell you that they thought you were stealing books? Norbridge curled his lips and then laughed stiffly. Turns out they had me confused with some other hotel owner. Elizabeth returned to the telescope, though she was thinking that what Norbridge had told her sounded very odd. Selina was pointing out something on the bridge to her husband. We should get going, Norbridge said. He snapped his fingers and all the lights in the room behind him came on. Elizabeth lifted her face from the telescope and glanced around. How did you do that? She said. And the snow over your head on Christmas Eve. How do you do those things? He held up both hands and then tugged first one sleeve and then the other before saying simply, I'm a magician. He shot his arms outward and a violet silk kerchief materialized that he pulled tight. A real magician? Elizabeth said. I've discovered over the years that every member of the Falls family has some sort of, I suppose, power is the correct word. He glanced at Lake Luna. But duty calls. At 3:30 that afternoon, Elizabeth found Samson, the young bellhop, and asked him to knock loudly on the Himeses' door no later than 25 minutes after 4. Just make up some excuse, she said, like you have the wrong room or something. She checked inside A Guide for Children once again and found that, sure enough, there was an addition to the silver letters. The key is A, it now read. So the key word starts with the letter A, she thought. She wondered how many more days it would be until the word became clear. I'm getting closer to figuring it out. She hid the book in her drawer again before leaving. Honey, will you open that door, please?
Which one?
The door right there that Carter just closed. Thank you. There we go. There were too many questions on her mind to back out now. Come in, Selina Himes said with delight upon answering her door and finding Elizabeth before her. She wore her standard black clothing, the satiny dress and the vest with strange symbols on it. Her face was starkly white, as though she'd put on an extra layer of makeup. Very glad you've come to visit, Marcus Kuheim said, drawing up behind his wife. He put a hand to his thick suit jacket as if to contain his pleasure. Such a delight. Elizabeth felt more uncomfortable than she would have guessed, though as she was ushered in and given a seat on the plush sofa by the window and offered tea and cookies, with Marcus and Selina chattering pleasantly throughout, asking her about her vacation thus far at Winterhouse, she considered there was nothing on the surface that was unusual. Their room was about as nondescript as could be. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I have to open up our granola bar really quick. All right, what do you say, bud? You're welcome. Sorry. Back to the story. Lost my spot. Their room was about as nondescript as could be. The Himeses hadn't altered the standard Winterhouse decor in any way, and none of their belongings were in evidence aside from a few books on the end tables. Also, the Himeses themselves didn't display any of the menace that she'd felt during her first few encounters with them. In fact, the only reason Elizabeth felt odd was because of how completely cordial Marcus and Selina were, in continuation of their performance on Christmas Eve. They sat on a sofa opposite her with a low coffee table between with a book-sized package on it and gift wrap with a blue ribbon tied around it, and spoke pleasantly with her over their tea. Are you all right, dear? Selina asked after several minutes. You aren't in a very talkative mood. It was an odd question, but Elizabeth realized that she'd been close to silence so far and had done much more listening than talking. She felt too guarded. She'd also been working up the nerve. I'm right in the middle of reading to the kids. Can you give me like 2 minutes? 2 minutes, okay? Or see if Sissy can help you. She felt too guarded. She'd also been working up the nerve to ask them what had been on her mind. I'm almost finished. I'm okay, she said. It's just I suppose I don't really understand why you've invited me here today. A heavy silence fell upon the room. Selina looked to Marcus with a start, as though she couldn't make sense of Elizabeth's words, or was looking to him to pick up the thread. Marcus set his teacup on a saucer with a clink and then smoothed his mustache with his thumb and forefinger. He studied Elizabeth, His lips pinched into something that looked troubled and insincere, and then said softly, "We're hoping that you can assist us with a small matter." "Assist you?" Elizabeth said. "It's not broken, buddy. You just pulled it apart." Selina examined her with her searching eyes once again, something like the cruel look she'd given her on the bus and then again in front of the library doors that one late night. "Yes, assist us," she said sternly. "That is our hope." Elizabeth glanced around the room. She had a sudden conviction that she might disorient them through distraction. "Where is that big crate you had when you got here?" Both Marcus and Selina looked stunned. Marcus laughed awkwardly. "Why are you asking that?" he said. Selina fidgeted and began smoothing her hair. "Yes, why do you want to know?" "Just curious," Elizabeth said. A thump came from the back room, a sound that reminded Elizabeth of the noise Uncle Burlap made when, on occasion during his naps, he slid off of his easy chair onto the carpeted floor. "What was that?" Elizabeth said. Marcus turned to Selina. "I didn't hear anything." "Me neither," she said, before looking at Elizabeth. "But yes, we're hoping you can assist us." It was clear they had something definite on their minds, Elizabeth thought, and they were not going to be sidetracked. "Well, what is it that you want help with?" she said. She kept expecting to hear another bump from the back room, and she felt anxious to think that not only had something made a noise, but that they were pretending that they had not heard it. "As I believe I alluded to in previous conversation," Marcus said, "there are, we feel certain, some stolen books in the library." "I don't think Norbridge has stolen any books." "Not casting anything like that," Marcus said quickly. "I will leave the gentleman out of the equation and simply state that by some means and at the hands of someone here in this hotel, a collection of books from our family has ended up in the Winterhouse library. I need not explicitly lay blame on any particular individual, but the facts are the facts. We are certain of this, dear. Absolutely certain." "Well, whether that's true or not, how can I help you?" said Elizabeth. "Call it a feeling," Marcus said. "A certain intuition on my part, but I have a belief that you have a particular feel for books, that you know a special one when you see it. We think you might have a capacity for, shall we say, identifying at least one of the books that have been pilfered from us, a very special one." "What he's asking, dear," Selina said, "is if you might have picked up, say, a particularly compelling volume since you've been here. Simply put, is there a special book that you've found in the library?" Elizabeth felt a deep chill run through her. "That's why you invited me here? You think I found something in the library and you want it?" The Himeses didn't speak. As calmly as she could, Elizabeth plucked a gingerbread cookie from the tray on the table before her and began to chew it slowly. "I noticed when I turned your card upside down that your signature turns into the name Sweat." Marcus shrugged casually. "I wasn't aware. Coincidence, I suppose. Though I don't know that that's significant in any way." "Have you found any books as we've described?" Selina said. She looked mildly angry, as though she was not going to be deterred from heading down the path she'd chosen. "That's what we would like to know, and we are hoping you can help." She gestured to the package on the coffee table. "We even have a gift for you." Absently, Elizabeth reached to draw out her necklace from where it lay beneath her sweater and took it between her fingers. Another thump sounded from the back room. "I definitely heard something," Elizabeth said. "Lovely necklace, incidentally," Selina said, ignoring her. "I'm wondering where you got it." She stood. Elizabeth went cold. She was about to speak when Marcus also stood. All kindness had vanished from the Himeses' faces, and they loomed over the coffee table, and they glared down at Elizabeth. Selina began to move closer. "It's a very lovely necklace," Selina said in a lower voice, "and we are so wanting you to assist us." "Yes," Marcus said. He too began to move around the coffee table toward Elizabeth. "We are very sincerely making this request of you." A knock sounded at the door. "Come in," Elizabeth shouted. "Please, come in." Chapter 28.